Hey, it's Del Jackson, elohoost.com. We have a special Zoom interview guest here with Curtis Waltman. Curtis Waltman, I'm reading Curtis. I'm reading out of the book here. I don't know if you can see it or not. It's the little 50 years of LO hoops. Now you didn't make the cover, but you said you didn't have any pictures of yourself playing, so I couldn't put you on the cover.
True, yeah.
So, Curtis played for Spot from 98 to 2001. I believe he's the second leading scorer in the LL history, 2,600 points. Blonde Bombers started during his time, and he's come back to the LL, to his roots from Texas. How you doing, Coach? Oklahoma.
Very good.
Oklahoma.
I know. Make sure there's a whole there's a huge rivalry there.
Not good. All right.
Well, thank you, Coach. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you and I talked a little bit off camera here about the pathway for you to take this job. So go ahead and give our fans a little bit of how this occurred and what your thoughts were coming from Oklahoma back to Pennsylvania.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, obviously being born and raised here, and my wife is also from the area. She graduated from Pequea Valley. So our families are still here. I have 4 kids. So I think there's always been a deep part of me that would have loved the opportunity to come back and give back to the Garden Spot community. There was so many people. And just growing up, that I look back on my life, that I am so grateful for the time they took to really invest in me. And it's an amazing, it was always something in the back of my mind and that I always wanted to do, but the door had never opened up. And, we moved out in 2011 to Oklahoma to work at a Christian ministry. And then we had our 4th child. So I started just kind of working in the public schools there and coaching and teaching. And, you start kind of making a life out there. And sometimes it's very difficult to get back to Lancaster County just because of how much of a desirable area it is. And the more you get into teaching, there's certain things that kind of go into it. So at some point we kind of had realized we were at peace with staying out there. And just kind of raising our family there. Even all my kids, I have 4 kids, and they would kind of say they're Okies. You know what I mean? Like we always say, hey, we're going back home, and they're like, Oklahoma's home to us. So
home.
Yeah, it was their home. But in the same sense, always having that desire that the opportunity ever came that I could come back and really give back and really serve. That was something that always excited me. And there was just there was an opportunity here at Garden Spot. There was a math position that opened up late in the year, about 2/3 of the way through the school year. And my wife and I, we just looked at each other and we said, if this is the time. And there were so many things that just came together for everything to fall in place that you just really knew this is where we were supposed to be. And, for me, I'll be honest, it was a pretty emotional experience, the opportunity to kind of come back and wear, blue and gray again. But yeah, just really excited about the opportunity to come back and do the same thing that people did for me, like people like Coach Lever, my football coach, George Strout, my basketball coach, and Russ White, my track coach, just how much they impacted me. And then, that was just the opportunity to teach here. And I was just so excited to come back, move my family back, and then the opportunity, the basketball job obviously, came open, and then that opportunity to do that was really special, and again, just because of the amount of time. I always tell people, when I came back, I didn't really have much of a reaction walking the halls, but then I went into the old gym and I was just like, wow. I was like, no, but just the amount of time that was spent there, the amount of time with my teammates, coaches, growing up. Like I remember that. If you ever been in the old gym at Garden Spot, I mean, it is a bandbox, but that was like my Taj Mahal growing up, man. Like that was like what you worked so hard for. So it's really it's an amazing opportunity. And I'm just really grateful to have the opportunity to teach here and coach here and just impact the lives of the kids.
Tell our fans a little bit about what you've been doing with your team, how you've been integrating yourself with those guys, and what the team's been doing up to this point.
Sure. And thankfully, for me, the program here, they have invested a lot of time, into the off season, spring leagues, spring ball, I call it spring ball, but spring AU, you're just playing a lot, playing a number of tournaments. So, got the job in May. And I know that they have been playing a good bit all throughout the program. So, We were able to get into the Hempfield Summer League, which was a great opportunity for me to just learn. I always tell people, we use the word process and sometimes we overuse it, but really for me, I'm in a process of just learning about the kids, learning about the program. I really believe anytime that you step into this situation, I always use the word do an audit. Like you look at everything, what's
Nice.
good, what's positive. Like we're not going to change things that are positive, but then we look at, there's always areas of improvement, and then really just getting to know the kids, getting to know their strengths, getting to know what areas, that we can possibly help them with. And I always say, the one thing that I'm a firm believer in is that the summertime is where you really work on your individual game. It's great that you're playing, but don't neglect the amount of time that we have to really change things that have to be changed, work on your individual skill work. So that's something that we've really been doing in open gyms. And I do state this a lot, we really want to, look at the whole athlete and look at the physical part of them, the weight training. So we've been doing weight training, open gym, and then obviously the Hempfield Summer League just finished up. So, and that was a really good experience for me personally. I've been gone from the LL for a number of years, and you know how that is, just kind of learning the landscape and the people. And, it's kind of I show my age a little bit. I'm like, I don't know if I know many of the coaches anymore, like, some of the people. So, and thankfully, I saw Coach Walk and Coach Brown
Brown, yeah.
so I was like, all right, good. I know some people, but
Yeah.
I don't. So yeah, it's just been a good opportunity to get to kind of start building those relationships with kids and just getting a lay of the land, and then we can really get a plan going forward.
All right, let me ask you some coaching questions here.
Sure.
First one I want to ask is, okay, you were running this program. You and I talked before. You were running this football program, and you were very involved, youth all the way up through.
Sure.
So now you're switching gears to basketball. So tell me, in your head, what is the difference between what you were doing and what you are going to be doing and are doing now, as far as transitioning from the football, which I believe, I don't know a lot about football, but I believe there's a lot of organization with the assistant coaches and stuff, to basketball, where you're kind of pushing the buttons most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that due to the fact of like you said, the largest of football and the ability to delegate certain those things. So I think organization, I always tell it was one of my favorite stories. It was Bobby Knight was doing a clinic, and I heard the story from like a friend of mine, and he said it was really interesting. So Bobby Knight was talking about how he ran his program, and he gets through his program, like just about his program part, and then he said, "Hey guys, I'm gonna start talking about basketball," and like half the group left because it was football coaches. So it was really interesting, and I think that's where, when we talk about coaching, it doesn't matter what you're coaching. Organization, attention to detail, being able to delegate, being able to have a clear message, those are things that are common throughout all athletics. When you really study successful coaches, like those traits become really similar. Like even like one of my favorite books is Dean Smith's The Carolina Way.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned more, I applied more of what that was to more football stuff. Mm-hmm. And now the ability to do it in basketball as well. But it's amazing the crossover when you see those really high level coaches. So I can't say as though there's a dramatic difference. I would say in terms of the actual basketball staff, it's a little bit less. And I think that as a basketball coach, you have the ability to kind of have it centered on you, but I don't know if that's always the best either. Like, I think it's the best to use those people around you and those skill sets so kids get as much work as possible. So I think clearly, because of my experiences, I will take that mindset into it, just because of that's the experience. And from what I've studied of great basketball coaches, there's a lot of similar veins that it obviously comes to that. So that will be something that I will obviously have to continue to process. But I think being highly organized, having attention to detail, and really having a clear focus, I think that's good for any sport that you obviously want to.
Well, your background is so different than most people that step into a head coaching job. I'm sorry, it is. It really is. All right, another one without giving anything away.
Sure.
Is the Stooges play going to come into part at Garden Spot? You don't have to give it away. You just say yes or no. Don't give it away.
You know what? I would say, here's the thing. I will say it's interesting as a coach, the certain things you pick up over the years, you know what I mean? And Stooges is just a clear thing that really what we did is we just doubled the ball when it was inbounded. It was out, it was out of a 3-2, but that's kind of transformed. But I think in some kind of verbiage, it wouldn't surprise me. You know what I mean? To probably use that verbiage because that's my natural verbiage. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's what I know. And that's what I say. And it's kind of funny. I'm not the only one. There's a lot, coming back home, that is something that gets talked about and we all know what it is. So, I mean, if it works, we'll use it.
I don't like, I've seen a lot of basketball, but somehow that just stuck in my head.
Does
I'm just like, what? I'm looking, I'm like, I think I understand it, but and I know you and I talked about it before. So that's why
Coach Stroud had a really good way of naming things that we remembered.
Yeah.
Because it was like, I always one called Pig Box. That's another one. And for the life of me, I'm going to remember that one forever. Yeah. There's no way I can't.
Yeah.
And Stooges meant 3 because of the 3 Stooges. So he did a lot. And I actually think that's something that I've applied in like a lot of ways, sure. Honestly, throughout my life. It's like, well, how can we have somebody remember something and make the naming memorable? You know what I mean? So that's, I
do, dude, man. I don't even know, 35 years old and I heard that. So I'm still remembering it 30 years later. And I haven't heard anybody else call that. So when I come and see your games this year, I'm gonna be laughing. I'll put it on
use it.
Videotape, huh?
Yeah. I'll use it for you.
I'll do that. All right. Next thing. So you talked about the old gym. You got great facilities over there. You got a great weight room. I'm thinking maybe Curtis once in a while will want the old gym for a little practice to reminisce and say, look, fellas, it's like, you don't realize how good you have it. We're going to go over there and practice.
I will say this though, in coaching basketball, because I've coached basketball on and off throughout the past 20 years, in different varieties of ways. But I will say the length of court is something that always has to be considered. And I mean, when you walk into our old gym, it's different. Like so you have to process. And thankfully, because of having a number of new gyms that have been built across the country, sure. You don't see those small gyms anymore. Right. So you have to take that into consideration, obviously, what you want to install and what you want to do. Like it's because of having that much space. And I remember when when we went to Hershey, I remember that being a huge adjustment because I was like, man, there's a huge amount of space here in comparison to playing the majority of our games at that time. Yeah. So I think that was even the start of the process. So obviously sometimes we have to be in the small gym, but it's interesting going from the large court to the small court. It is different. Like you're just like, wow, there is not a lot of space here. So there's always something enjoyable going back to the old gym for me personally.
Yeah, that's good. I follow you guys once in a while. I mean, when I say you guys, Spot, we get around. Andy gets around to see Andy. I don't know. Have you met Andy yet? Or
beat? I don't believe so. No.
Okay, well, you will. He goes to all the games. He sees everybody play at least once. That's his goal. I don't quite get to that goal, but we get around a little bit. But when I go to Spot, I've always been impressed with the students in the stands. They seem to be really tight to the players on the floor. I know they're far away, which is probably not a great thing, but I always felt that the support there within the community, within rooting for each other, I guess that's what I'm getting for. I thought that was a really cool thing, and I'm sure that you'll continue to build on that.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously, when you obviously coming back to Spot, you know what I mean? Like after, because I told you, it's been over 20 years really since I've been in the area. So, even though there are a lot of things that are similar about the culture, you know what I mean? Like each school has its own culture. But in the same sense, still learning about some of those things. And like you said, wanting to promote those. If that's here, man, we want to promote that because there is nothing better than when you have a student body that is supporting one another across all athletics, across all fans. I think that, as I said, and that's a wonderful environment. And I will always say we've always had a really very supportive community here, and we're very fortunate for that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, I I want to leave you with this a little bit because I'm still in education in a different way than I was before. But we talk to people about coaches and we talk to people about teachers, and I'm of the belief if you're a good coach, you're a good teacher, and I feel that from you. I mean, so let's end it to tie in what you do in the classroom with what you've done in sports. Like what things do you use in the classroom, which is a different environment, as we all know, than coaching a basketball team.
Sure. It's kind of interesting. Arlen Mumal, who was at Manheim Central, he was wrestling. Like he was actually he came to be the principal at Petway Valley for like a number of years, but he was there when I was there. And it was something really interesting. He actually came in and observed, and we were sitting there talking about it. And he said, you run your classroom like you would a practice, incremental times, like everything down to the detail, like, because you're really, for me, I'm always looking for that perfect practice, or that perfect lesson. And it's like, and that lesson flows, just perfectly. And he always said, he made this great suggestion to me. And it was, why don't you put a timer up on the board in my classroom? And it was like, I was like, man, that's awesome. Cause that's what I do in coaching all the time. There's always a time to run to this. Yeah. And that's something that I learned from coaches. I was amazed when you looked at the attention to detail of Dean Smith or John Wooden, or even, Roy Williams is another one, and Mike Shashet. Like I have all their practice scripts, and and I was watching something on Jay Wright the other day, and it's amazing how much it's like we want to stay on course. We want to make sure that we cover all of those things. And I think that's what you see, kind of that blending in my teaching and coaching. It's very similar. It's like when you walk in, you know exactly what today is going to be. You know what I mean? Like we have a clear objective. This is what we're working on. And, we always use, this is what we're working on basketball wise. And then this is what we're working on character. Like I'm huge on teaching character and leadership. Like that's kind of our vision here. We use basketball to help make servant leaders. Like that's our major vision that we are trying to do here with basketball. But to do that, you have objectives and goals. You have to build up to that. So I think having that clarity, having a plan, being organized, and just how that streams in the classroom. Like I think kids are really good about understanding something when it's clear to them. When it's muddy to them, that's when things usually break down. But when they're real clear on something, that really benefits them, and it creates a really great environment where you can have those relationships and those interactions when everything's clear. So I think all of those things with teaching and coaching, there's so many similarities that go into it. So, I mean, if you walk into my classroom, like it's down to the minute, like I got it all organized and you know what I mean? And it cracks me. It's like, you're pretty much, but you know what though? It moves, because you want engagement. You want kids moving, going one thing to the other. You know how drills are. I mean, if you stay on a basketball drill too long, well, that's not gonna be beneficial. Same thing in the classroom. If you spend too much in an activity, that's not going to go well. So, I always use the 10 and 2 method. That's something I always learn. Like after 10 minutes, you summarize for 2 in the classroom. That's good. And I noticed that a lot. I do it in basketball too, or coaching. Hey, what did we just go over? Let's review and constantly do that because the goal is really to be a great coach. You really are a great teacher. I think I'll use John Wood. I think he never really wanted himself called a coach. He wanted himself to be called a teacher. Yeah. Like that's what he used. Like to be a really great coach, it means you are a teacher. So many similarities, like you said.
I like the 10 and 2 thing. I when I was teaching, we had regular schedules, so we had 40-minute classes.
Right.
But I tried to schedule 10, 10, 10. That was my breakdown. 10 going over this, 10 of doing this, 10 of this, 10 of that. And I tried to stick to it. I didn't put a clock up on anything, but not that my ego's big, but when I first started coaching, I had a practice schedule, but daggone, I would go off schedule. I'd see something and it would be bad. And then I started going to clinics. I started learning a little bit. Yep. And then you'll like this. It went from 15 minutes to 10 minutes. And at the end of my coaching career, it was 5 minutes.
There you go.
And that was it. 5 minutes, and you had to get off of it. So what I learned from that, just development of myself, was if you were struggling with something, let's say you're struggling with a press offense or something like that, breaking a press, and it didn't go good, well, that means the next day you hit it a couple different times in your 5-minute segment, but not to kill it then, because obviously you're not processing it right, and the kids aren't processing it right, and you don't want to beat the dead horse type of thing. So,
And I think the more that they see something, that's important. Like
Yeah.
it's almost like in the more, and that, like I think for anybody, you would say like, hey, if I do something for 20 minutes one day, but if I break them into, like you said, 5 minutes at 4 different times, their retention is going to be more because they've
Yeah.
seen it
Yeah.
4 times. Like so, I always think that way. When you are a teacher, you do get to go through classes and courses, and they do teach about retention, and you see that. We know that as like how many times when we're coaching and a kid doesn't remember a play or doesn't remember something, I always take that on like, hey, I've not taught them that well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
I do.
that you want them to be able to do it. That's the whole goal. And I've always said this, as a coach, irregardless of what sport it is, that the goal really is that I could walk up into the stands and they would be able to do it. That's how well coached they are, that I'm really just sitting on the sideline and like they got it because they're that well prepared. That's all that, I mean, that's kind of the like, the end all be all is that exactly as high as you can get, man. They got it, they control it, they're rolling, man. That's awesome. So
that's cool. Hey, you're in section 3, is that correct, or 2? You're in 2. Okay, you're in there with Warwick, and everybody's talking about Warwick. So you got your work cut out for you, at least to start here. I know that, and I know you'll be fine. Thank you for talking to us. I will be on the road, and we will check you out. So you got a little bit to go here. You giving the kids some time off in August as far as basketball?
Well, and I think now July for me, kind of the idea behind it is that July, obviously we'll continue to lift, we'll continue to have open gyms. And again, just get that gym open for them to get in and work on their skill work. You know what I mean? And then we'll have a couple evening open gyms where hopefully we can start, installing and really kind of looking at some different things, you know what I mean? Specific that we can, because, we always have umbrellas of philosophies, but I always want to say we want to tailor it to specific things. And that's kind of what now, after seeing everything, it's a great time to be able to do this. But yeah, we will give them August off, and then we'll start open gyms in September.
Good. Hey, best with the teaching, best with the transition. We'll see you. Thank you for taking some time with us tonight.
Thank you, Coach. I appreciate you.
Appreciate it, buddy.